Hello and welcome back to another video on WD18, the Watford fan channel. Sorry about the delay this evening, but we're back now to discuss Watford's Easter weekend and some speculation around Chris Wilder's name today, and of course the manager who'll be coming into Watford next season. Never a dull few days supporting Watford, is there, Charlie?
Today was just peak Watford supporting. We had some news in the morning, obviously rumours. A day in the life of a Watford fan. It's good. And apologies that we're late. It was my train, so I deserve a fine for that. So apologies for us and thanks for joining.
No, that's the commitment, Charlie, to get back in time for the video. You have to respect it. But we will come on to that speculation today. That news broke from TalkSport this morning, and Footy Insider that Watford are going to start looking for a replacement for Chris Wilder. Then reports came out from Sam Matterface that he was about to be sacked imminently, before Watford swiftly acted with a statement saying that Chris Wilder will be in charge at least until the end of the season. So plenty to unpack there. But let's start off with Friday's game. 3-2 defeat at home to Huddersfield Town. Watford took the lead, 1-0 up at half time. 1-0 for Yasser Asprilla. Before Huddersfield equalised, made it 1-0, 3-1, 3-2. Dan Backman got sent off. It was a ridiculous game of football. I assume for a neutral, it was one of the most entertaining games you'd watched this season. For a Watford fan, it was nothing short of infuriating, to be honest. Charlie, what are your reflections on that game?
It was mad just watching it unfold. I don't know if it was because I had a few pints before, but it just standing there in bemusement. But shouldn't really be surprised. I thought first half we were quite good. We had quite a few shots from Loser had a shot saved. And obviously Asprilla got that goal. It was really good to see. Great finish from Yasser. But we just conceded another cheap goal before half time, which was massive. Craig Cathcart, I don't think did the best kind of defending, letting a cross get in. Porteous did what he could, and their man just swept it home. And I just think our confidence is so fragile at the moment that just dented our confidence and any kind of steam we had going into the second half. They didn't have many shots at all. I think they had 4 shots in total, scored 3 goals, but again, cheap goals to concede. Another easy cross that Ngakia maybe could have done better on the right, and a long ball that they managed to head in, and it went in slow motion getting in. I think Jow was marking their big centre back, so it just shows where this team is at the moment in terms of the fragility and the confidence. Kind of a similar theme to the Coventry game, but I think a lot more improvement Coventry game. But just a shame how that Huddersfield game ended. We couldn't compose ourselves to create any decent opportunities, and Dan Backman getting sent off at the end just was a cherry on top. So it was not a good Friday.
Yeah, I think it's that goal at the end of the first half, I think, was a real killer, the equaliser. I think psychologically going in at the break on a first half that I thought we improved in overall. Great to see Asprilla get a goal, which probably should have scored a few more. Asprilla had a brilliant chance as well, which was, watching it back, probably easier than the goal he actually scored as well. So disappointed he wasn't able to double his tally. But I just think what we saw on Friday again was how fragile the backbone is of this Watford team, and I think that was epitomised again by the situation at the end with Dan Backman being sent off. I've seen some people argue saying that yes, it shows that he's passionate. Some people have said it was pure stupidity and he wasn't thinking. Regardless of what you think, it's not acceptable to see that at this level. Charlie, that whole crazy few minutes towards the end of the game, what did you make of it? What did you make of it in terms of the character of this Watford team?
Ill-disciplined. I think Dan will be really disappointed when he kind of reflects on how it all ended. Obviously, everyone's upset because of the performance and the way the game was going, and Huddersfield are going to do what any Neil Warnock team and shithouse us as much as possible. We've got to expect that. We know we can't deal with that, but you could tell Dan was frustrated. I think he lost his head. He was shouting at the ref, got a yellow card for dissent, probably got a bit of contact in the box, fell over and thought he should have had a penalty, and then just so costly getting sent off because obviously we're going to get to the Coventry game, but there was an error there that maybe Dan Backman would have stopped. So just so disappointed to see, like, with the gloves thrown on the ground afterwards and just to stay at the stadium. It's just sad at the moment, really sad.
Yeah, we'll come on to the Coventry game in a second, and we're also going to come on to talk about the Pozzos in a minute. I see Alfie here in the comments asking us about how we feel about the Pozzos. come on to that soon. But just before going on to the Coventry game and talking a bit more in depth about the Pozzos, it was a unique atmosphere at Vicarage Road on Friday. First time, I think it's from the Rookery called their podcast, it was Breaking Point. It almost felt like something in the air changed at Vicarage Road. Chance if you're not wet a shirt, fit to wear the shirt, banners against Pozzo, banners against players, chance of Gino out. We've never seen anything like that at Vicarage Road, have we? In recent years, at least, yeah.
Yeah, I really can't remember anything. I mean, you got to look back to Premier League years when Gino had that massive banner that the 1881 produced to show how grateful we were from him, and I just think it all boiled over on that Saturday. And I don't even think it was a result. Even before the game, the atmosphere in front of us at the Rookery, there was that banner that kind of said "No heart, no passion. It's not the coach." Obviously, the fan with the Pozzo out getting thrown out, and yeah, it's just sad, and you can see it kind of building up, and then obviously how the game ended. It's just a horrible, toxic atmosphere, and it's just a shame. And I think football can change really quickly, which is what I'm trying to hold on for some hope. And I think we've got 5 games left, and there's no point just getting angry. We need to address kind of the situation. How are we going to improve it? And just for me personally, I try to look at it in a positive way and think, how can we be positive and get forward? But loads of mistakes have been made. We know that fans are fully entitled to make an effort with banners or protests, however they want. I'd encourage, obviously, to make it as peaceful as possible. But at the end of the day, this is Watford Football Club, and I think one thing that we've got to try and stay united as a fan base and try and, where we can, get behind the team as possible. And I know maybe the players haven't given as much as we would like this season, but we've got to try and stick together because this is our club, so we can't just get this toxic keep going. So I don't know, what's your main thoughts on the atmosphere and banners and how Vicarage Road was on Friday?
Look, I think it's been coming for a long time. It's been bubbling for a while. There's been a few away games this season, particularly Millwall and Blackpool. I remember where there were chances of Pozzo out, and I think it was always a matter of time before we saw breaking point happen and almost an explosion happened at Vicarage Road, where it just seemed like the perfect storm. Everything happened at once. Stories of Scott Duxbury telling a fan to shut up as well. Not too sure if that's true. But particularly after that Luton game a couple of weeks ago now, I think it always was coming. And I think you're right, Charlie. I think as long as it remains peaceful, I think fans obviously are right to share their frustrations and protest however they want. I joined in with the chance of Gino out. I want Gino Pozzo to leave the football club now because I think it's evident that he's not going to change. I gave him that chance with Rob Edwards in the summer and he didn't. And I think that with all the media speculation that's happened today regarding Chris Wilder, I think that's a direct consequence of the culture, the toxic culture that Gino's created, where a few bad results will end up in the manager's job being questioned. And to be honest, we've become the laughing stock of football. It's not a good place for the players to develop. We've seen a lot of players in their development faltering in the last few years. We've seen empty seats at Vicarage Road, particularly in that Birmingham game a few weeks ago. The atmosphere was toxic the other day and performances aren't enjoyable to watch. Like I say, I thought with Rob Edwards in the summer, with the interview that we got to do in the summer, the way that Rob spoke, all the noises coming out of Vicarage Road, was I thought that would they genuinely back him and give him the season, try and build something, and they didn't. And I think for me, that's it. I think it's clear that they're not going to change. Obviously, there's always the caveat that someone could come in and throw us into administration, like we see with other clubs in the Championship, such as Reading having a points deduction recently. But I think it's very evident that under Gino Pozzo, nothing will change.
Yeah, I think it's time to walk the walk, isn't it? I think, like I've said, and like we said in our 5-point plan, the appointment of Ben Manga seems promising. And we've heard a few things. Well, we haven't heard a few things, but we're hoping that Ben Manga's going to kind of get the reins to look after all the football decisions. So we've heard words, but we need to see actions now, don't we? So
yeah, definitely. It will be a very telling summer, I think, in terms of the managerial appointment and whether that manager is backed and given time as well. But going on to the Coventry game on Monday, fantastic following for Watford, considering the game was on Sky on a bank holiday with not many trains running, if any at all. I'm not too sure. And the atmosphere was actually quite good. There wasn't really any momentum carried in terms of Pozzo out chance, or you're not fit to wear the shirt. People seemed to get behind the team in that first half and went 2-0 up. Good finishes from Pedro and a brilliant finish from Imran Loser as well before ultimately threw it away again in the second half and drew 2-2. And we just seen before we came on air, Charlie, that we were probably fortunate not to lose that game. How do you reflect on that one?
Watford are the only team that I know who can be popping the ball around with the fans singing sexy football, and then in 15 minutes' time, we're hanging on for dear life. I was really, really impressed with the first half. I think the one thing that really impressed me the most, and I think it's one thing that Watford fans have wanted for ages, but Imran Loser on the ball. He wanted it. He was dictating play. He was moving it around. And it was the first time it felt like we were controlling the game. And that was through him, I thought. I even thought Bakuna did well when he came in, played it simple. And I just felt we had some control defensively. We were pretty solid. They were having pop shots from far out. But I thought we were in control. We were moving it around nicely. There was good intensity out of possession from most of them, I thought. And I thought we were a threat. João Pedro's goal is lovely. Good bit of movement from Britt, just a dummy to give him the space. Really unfortunate that Britt's pulled his hamstring. That's another hamstring injury. And then we were pretty solid. And then obviously Lou's got that goal before half time. Perfect. Goal 5 minutes in, goal before just half time. Second half I thought we played well. We're coming out showing real confidence, knocking it around, flicks going. And then, like I said, just one moment where I think Ben Hamer's had quite a bad error. I think he just really misjudged his positioning, thought it was going wide. It wasn't going wide. And then after that, just what we spoke about, Huddersfield, confidence dropped, bit all over the place, no composure, and they got back into it. And I think we were lucky to come away with a point, really, especially after that Kamara penalty incident. So, Keith Stroud, thank you.
Yeah, it did look like a penalty on the replays. I haven't seen the handball back either. Did that look like a penalty from the TV screens?
Did they say handball?
There was a handball shout just before the before Kamara's tackle. If you can't remember it, then there probably wasn't anything in it. Before we come on to Ben Hamer's mistake, though, I might be talking in hindsight here, but when Watford were sort of going through all the flicks and tricks at the start of the second half, I sort of in hindsight, while I loved it at the time, in hindsight, I probably wish we went a bit more direct. I think Coventry were there for the taking and we could have easily gone and got that third goal. Do you think there's a lack of ruthlessness in this Watford team? Do you think, while it was so good to watch, do you think we should have been a bit more direct at the start of that second half?
I can't remember many glaring chances that we missed. Can you?
I think that's the thing, though. I think we had a great opportunity to create a few more chances. I think Coventry was sat back. We were all over them. We completely had them where we wanted them on the edge of their own box. I think we probably could have done a bit more.
Yeah, I think defensively they weren't good. I think they had 3 at the back and they were up against our 3 in attack with Sarr and Pedro. I really like Pedro wide, actually. See maybe a bit less responsibility, can find space out wide, and I really like as he kind of drives infield. But I'm not sure about clinical because I can't remember us making more cut chances. But in terms of putting our foot on the gas and really killing the game, we probably should have done better. Maybe you're right. Instead of the flicks and tricks, just gone for the juggler and been a bit more direct, like you say. So really frustrating one, but interesting to hear Chris Wilder's comments. And I think that just shows the state of the team and the confidence at the moment, where I thought he was really, really positive at the end of the game. And also a shout out to Ryan Andrews, who made his first league debut. I thought he was really, really solid. Didn't make any mistakes, positionally good. He was unlucky to go off. But yeah, what Chris said about how happy he was about the intensity was encouraging, but it's just getting 90 minutes out of these guys.
Yeah, definitely. And just on Andrews, fair play. I thought it was a really good debut from him. But it adds to the list of even more players to have played for Watford this season. Over the 2 games this bank holiday weekend against Huddersfield and Coventry, Watford had 19 players to feature for them just across 2 games. And that's an unbelievable number just to have across 2 games. And I think that's part of the problem because there's no real consistency with the team in terms of we're still trying to find out our best system, our best formation, our best players, how to get the best out of players. And again, that comes down to the fact that we're changing managers every 5 minutes and players can't really develop. So it's frustrating. But one of those players who did come in was Ben Hamer, obviously for the suspended Dan Backman. I was impressed with him in the first half, actually. Coming off his line to claim crosses, something that I've said Backman needs to do better. His distribution looks all right as well. Do you think that the goal that he conceded, as Alfie says over here, he couldn't tell the ball was going in? Do you think an experienced goalkeeper like that should be doing better, or do you think it's just a free goal?
I think he should be doing better, if I'm honest. I think you can tell by his gestures to show he thought he was going wide. I just think he got his bearings wrong, and I just think that's probably just a bit of rustiness within the game. His last game, I think, was Swansea in January last season. It's just a bit of a shame because you're right. He probably did do. He was doing all right, but it cost us. It really cost us, and like we said, the confidence went after that. So I fully expect Dan Batman to come back in, don't you?
Yeah, I think probably, but just a wider question. Do you think the goalkeeper area is an area that has to be addressed in the summer? Because we all know Dan Backman's faults. Maduka Okoye, albeit he hasn't had a run in the team, to be fair to him, but he's played, 2 games against MK Dons and Reading in the FA Cup, and he looked poor in both of them, I thought. And then Hamer, again, third choice goalkeeper. I think he's probably fine, but again, he came into the side and wasn't good enough. Would say I think, and I put a tweet out saying I think it's a priority in the summer that we go and get a goalkeeper, a leader at the back, someone who comes off his line, someone who can play with their feet, and a good shot stopper as well. It might be a big demand to get one who can do all of those, but how important is it that we go and try and get a goalkeeper?
It was a good tweet, Sam. Sparked a bit of an interesting debate, but I don't think it's our main priority. I think we're not going to have as big a budget in the Championship, are we? One set of parachute payments, so we're going to have to be really shrewd with how we spend that. For me, I think our number one priority has got to be a goal scorer. Us fans are craving for a player that we can fall in love with, another Troy Deeney, that young fans can idolise, and we can, do you know what I mean? When you're looking at the likes of Akpom this season, Gorkarez smashing it, it really gives your team a lift when you've got someone who you can rely on. That's what I'd like to see us invest, someone who is of a good profile, a good age, and we can kind of fall in love with, like we've had the Matty Vidras, people like that. I think that's a priority. And then it all depends about who we sell. Obviously, we're expecting Sarr and João Pedro to go, so we're going to need some creativity. Losers interesting, obviously. Chowdhury's going. It's going to be a mad summer. But for me personally, I don't think goalkeeper is the number one. But if there was one in the market for a good price that we think we could upgrade, then without a doubt we should go for it.
Yeah, I've seen a few shouts on Twitter as well from people saying they want the Plymouth goalkeeper, Michael Cooper. Lou Warren says that if we bring in Farioli, keeper is even more of a need. So parking the Easter weekend games, because again, they were quite forgettable. Let's move on to the last few days where there's been, as we said at the start of the show, never a dull few days supporting Watford. The news broke, I think it was yesterday, that Watford are in talks with Farioli, an Italian manager who could be the Watford manager from next season. Doesn't have any experience in English football yet, but I'm not too sure. Charlie, you've done a bit of digging around him. What have you found out so far?
Yeah, interesting. Like I was speaking to Luke a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're quite like football coach nerds, so we were just like speculating who we like to see, and I've put in 3 names and Farioli popped up in one of those just because he's got a really, really good reputation about being one of the most exciting young coaches in world football. 33 years old. He's a De Zerbi disciple. Really interesting story, actually. He was writing, when he was a young coach, he was writing an article for a blog, and it was about his favorite team or his favorite principles or his favorite coach. And he wrote about De Zerbi's team when he was like lower league Italian. And one of De Zerbi's coach found it, sent it to De Zerbi, and De Zerbi's like, "Oh, you wrote about me instead of Klopp and Guardiola." So he got him onto his coaching staff at Benevento, I think, and then Sassuolo, originally as a goalkeeping coach. I know he's a goalkeeping coach, and quite a lot of people think, "Oh, that's strange. Why is he a goalkeeper coach?" But coaches these days, they just take any opportunity to get into the game. So you'll often see an analyst will turn into a coach, goalkeeping coach will turn into a coach. So I wouldn't be worried about kind of his background. But terms of what he's done as a manager, he's had 2 jobs in Turkey. First job did all right. I'm not going to butcher the name he was at, but he kind of rebuilt them and how they're doing. And secondly, again, I don't want to butcher the name, but he took them to their highest finish. I know Leroy Fer plays for them, but he's done it in just playing like a really exciting De Zerbi-esque style football, really building out from the back, rotations, direct sometimes, but it's all about kind of everything that you've seen in Brighton in terms of putting your foot on the ball, attracting players, moving people around. It's an exciting watch, mixing up those attacks. It seems like a lifetime away from what Watford could do, but in terms of the profile of coach, I think it's I know you're probably thinking, I know exactly what you're thinking in your head, but it's something that I need to get excited about. But in terms of the profile of coach, I think it's exactly who we should be going with. Someone who, starting out their journey, could be one of the world's best coaches. Hopefully he could do an amazing job for us at Watford and probably get picked off in the top club. So I do think it's going to be tough to get him in, because I know Braga, or there's reports Braga are interested. They're doing well this season. They could get Champions League, but there's a few rumours Helena Costa's got contacts and links with him. So I think it would be really interesting and exciting appointment. But what are you thinking? Don't put a downer on it.
No, you read my mind, Charlie. I think you're spot on. I think it is the right profile of manager that we should be looking for. The concern is, I mean, I was delighted with the Rob Edwards appointment in the summer. But the concern is, obviously, what happens if we're 10 games in next season and we're not doing well? Then what, we're going to roll the dice again? Are we going to back the manager in the summer? You have to say on evidence, probably not. So again, it comes down to the case of, if we're going to appoint him, how much is Pozzo going to back him and give him time? I've got no doubt that, hopefully he'll work well with Ben Manga. Again, it'll be interesting to see how Ben Manga gets on in the summer and what input he has in who comes in the summer. But it's the same concerns. I just can't see us having any sort of stability. I think, again, realistically, if we don't recruit well in the summer, we're going to be sat here 10 games into next season talking about another manager. Then 10, 15 games later, it'll be another one. I just can't really see anything changing at the moment. But if I'm being positive, here's hoping that it will, at least. And I'm happy to get behind the new manager, and I will try and get excited by him if it does come through. Obviously, a long way to go, and only initial talks have started, according to The Athletic and I think Football Insider as well. But in terms of the departing manager, Chris Wilder,
we don't know he's departed yet, do we?
Well, that's the thing, because there were reports came out earlier today from TalkSport and Sam Matterface specifically that Chris Wilder was going to be sacked imminently as the Watford head coach, as talk started with the manager for next season, whether that would be Farioli or someone else. Turns out that quite swiftly Watford released a club statement saying that Chris Wilder won't be leaving, at least until the end of the season, if not beyond that. What do you make of it, Charlie? Would it have shocked you if the rumours were true that we'd sacked him?
It wouldn't have shocked me. It was one of those where you're like, surely not. But we've been here before. Yeah, and frustrating, really, TalkSport releasing that. But again, a positive for me was the way the club dealt with it. I knew a few people going, "Oh, you don't have to announce that you're not." To be fair, I almost fell off my chair when the club announced we weren't sacking a manager. But I think it just shows transparency and just squashing it. I quite liked it. I like the fact Ben Manga's name was to it again, quite clear and precise. And I don't know the exact wording of the statement, but it said
disappointed.
Wilder will be here till this season, at least till the end of this season. So that's kind of covering their backs. Yeah, I thought it was quite good that they kind of put that statement. Do you agree? I thought it did get some stick.
100%. No, I really like it. I think the only stick I gave it was the initial rumor, while it was completely not true, it seems, was that this again is a consequence of the culture created, that a few bad results and the speculation comes. But I really liked it. There was another club a few weeks ago who released a statement when their manager wasn't leaving. Can't remember who it was, but there was speculation.
Nottingham Forest was Steve Cooper.
Yes, it was. Yeah, you're right. And then a few days, was it? Yeah, it was before, because again, TalkSport released a statement saying that Steve Cooper was about to be sacked. So make of that what you will. But yeah, so it does seem that Chris Wilder will be here at least until the end of the season. Last question for you, Charlie, before looking ahead to the weekend's game against Bristol City. Do you think, it's difficult to say, but do you think there's been an improvement at all under Wilder? From what we're seeing, at least under Slaven Bilic?
Feels like such an impossible job. I think improvement's probably strong. If we saw out that game, I'd say yeah. But interesting, we went back to a back four, didn't we, against Coventry? And I think we looked better for it. I do think he's got a bit of an impossible job at the moment, just with the players. I think we need to literally just scrape a win out of somewhere and hopefully that can build. But we've got 5 games left, haven't we? Bristol City have been playing quite well, haven't they, recently? So that's going to be a really tough one against another former Watford manager in Nigel Pearson. I'll never blame a coach, kind of with what I do with the coach's voice, and that I know how hard of a job it is. And I think going into Watford's probably one of the most impossible ones, especially being the 3rd manager in one season. So it's interesting. We put out that poll, didn't we? It'd be interesting to know what the fans feel like and get in the comments with what you think. We asked what manager do you want to see at the start of last season? Chris Wilder, which I think he's kind of endeared himself to quite a few fans, especially after his comments after Luton. Ben Manga's man, so whoever Ben Manga picks, or maybe a young homegrown manager like Rob Edwards last year. I think the vote last time I checked was majority Ben Manga. Ben Manga's man, and that would be my option. I think we've committed to him now. We need to stick with him. What would get your vote?
I think Ben Manga's man. I think if we are going to see a change with Gino Pozzo staying at the football club, I think it's going to come through Ben Manga and delegating football responsibilities to Ben Manga and Helena Costa. So I'd quite like to see Ben Manga's man come in, and hopefully we can back him as well. Going on to Bristol City game at the weekend. Not much to play for now for Watford. Obviously, mathematically, we can still get into the playoffs. But in the Bristol City game...
That's an absolute crime. Like, how bad this championship is. The fact that we're still 6 points. It's crazy how poor. Preston are like knocking on the door now. It's a bit of a crime with the players that we've got that we're not in the playoffs. Like, I feel like we should be doing it in first gear, but I think our wheels have fallen off and we haven't even got out of the drive.
No, exactly. It's never really kicked off this season. I think Watford have only won back-to-back games once this season, maybe twice off the top of my head. But what is it that you really want to see between now and the end of the season? Because I really liked Andrews' cameo, or the good hour that he played against Coventry. I'd quite like to see more minutes for the academy players, at least, because I think they've got something to prove. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I think we shouldn't throw all of them in, but like you said, I liked Andrews getting his opportunity. Would like to see Adeyemo again if you've got an opportunity. Obviously, Britt's injured now. I'll ask you about Arouge, actually, his cameo at Coventry. But a mixture, really. I think the one thing I just want to see at the end of the game is just that application and that effort. If we can see that and a few decent performances, like, I don't think we should get hung up if we win next game thinking we're going to get the playoffs. We just need to see now that we can get a few players that we hope are going to stay next season, putting in good commitment, good application, and just fighting each game. And yeah, if we could sprinkle in a bit more James Morris, Adeyemo. I'd love to see Jack Greaves. I think out of all of them, of all the academy players I've watched this season, Jack Greaves is the one that excites me. He kind of reminds me a bit of Declan Rice. I know he's a bit younger than the others, but he came on, didn't he, against Blackpool, kicked someone up in the air. But I'd like to see Jack Greaves get an opportunity. Just on that, what did you make of Arouge's cameo at Cov?
I thought people were harsh on Arouge, to be honest with you. I didn't think, obviously, the performance wasn't good, and it was a difficult game for him to come into. But I think a lot of people what I liked about Arouge was you could genuinely see how hard he was trying. And I know that doesn't necessarily that the bar's on the floor, I think, regarding I'm happy when I see a player putting in effort. And he was clearly really frustrated with his own performance. There was a moment where I think he failed to square the ball and João Pedro went absolutely mental with him. But he doesn't have a future here next season, realistically. It's a loan that hasn't really worked out. I just hope it doesn't really falter. It doesn't really falter any perhaps future loan agreements we have with Portuguese players or players from Benfica, particularly with Helena Costa's contacts as well. So, yeah, here's hoping he does perhaps get a goal between now and the end of the season. But while I was happy with his effort, it's not someone who I'd be desperate to try and get back again in the summer. Last thing in today's video, Charlie, bit of transfer news, not directly related to Watford, but Udinese have signed Bournemouth fullback Zamora. What do you make of it? And could you see him coming to Vicarage Road?
It'd be nice. I thought every time I've seen him play in the Premier League this season, I've been quietly suppressed, kind of. It's been one of those little, could I nick him and put him in my fantasy team on a cheap? One of those ones. Really attacking, dynamic, loves to get forward, good energy. Yeah, he's going to Udinese. I think we all thought that we might get, who's the guy from Derby they signed? Is
Vesti Ebisele.
Ebisele. So it's not a guarantee. Obviously, we've got Kamara, who we think is going to go there for quite a large fee. So if there wasn't any opportunity to get him playing for us, I'd love to see it because I think, again, he fits a good profile. And I've been really impressed when I've seen him in the Premier League. So you like to think in the Championship he could also perform well. But I think we said the same thing about Kamara last season. So, yeah, we're going to need a whole reset, like we've talked about time and time again. But hopefully we can get a really fresh start, new impetus going into next season and just some positivity.
Definitely. We'll be back after the Bristol City game for a match reaction and a match review as well. Hopefully, after quite a while.
We're going to do a phone-in, Sam.
Yes, we will. That's another thing as well. We'll be doing a phone-in soon as well in the next couple of weeks, maybe even after the Bristol City game. So if you're interested in coming on for a couple of minutes, sharing your thoughts about Watford at the moment, make sure to drop us a message on Twitter. Our DMs are open. Leave a comment on the video saying that you're interested in coming on, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on Watford at the moment. Charlie, thank you as always.
Thanks for having me. Roll on Bristol City.
Roll on Bristol City. Obviously, last time we played them at home, we beat them 6-0, and I wouldn't hesitate to take another result like that again. But as I say, we'll be back for a video after that game, and we'll see you all soon. Up the Hornets.